text. Um, but this text, it basically comes from this acknowledgement that somehow the way my work or the work I was doing and of so many people like me and also inscribed by blackness and raciality as non-white people were doing, somehow this work were completely informed by a system that want to bias as blacks, want to bias as indigenous, want to bias as radical, as trans. You see, wants to bias, and it's quite literal because, well, I'm a visual artist. I circulate mostly on the visual arts field, and the thing of buying, it's quite scary how it is a thing for us because it's all about like buy they are buying you. I remember I was in an art fair in Sydney last year, and there was this white lady who was a collector, and she saw me, and she came to me like touching and saying like, oh, if everything is on point here, the person, the hair, and I was like, shit, she's trying to buy me. She wants to buy me. And that's the complicated thing because it's there. And our life is commodified. And our life gets again into the equation of value. That is a more theoretical aspect of this tactical cognitive plantation that I don't want to get in. I'm seeing that my time is already running, but I don't want super get into that, but it's there in the text, and it's also in Denise Ferreira da Silva's work. The way Denise Ferreira da Silva describes the problem of value, which is related because it's related to the form modernity has created to operate with value both as an economic thing and as an ethical thing. Yeah. So a person with no value is a person that is ethically dispossessed. You can make anything with such a person, according to this thinking. So the idea of value were always related with a certain form of describing and creating hierarchies between peoples and bodies and subjects and etc. and places. So value was always there as a problem because it was always there as a force that replicates hierarchy, that replicates the idea that there are good humans, bad humans, and etc. And we know what these ideas have created. So in this text, I also like confront the idea of value, and I ask, um, does it make sense for us to fight for being valued by this system? Does it make sense? Is that our goal? Or better saying, it's like, what happens when we are valued? Our oppression stops, our oppression ends when we are valued? That was the question. If we look into the history of value, which is related to the history of slavery, the history of colonization, the value is there. Value is the tool, it's the colonial tool used to describe black people as less than human, indigenous communities as less than human, and then to dominate them. So somehow this text it gets to a moment which is a moment of pointing a limit to the valorization of difference and saying to value difference is not the same as abolishing the regimes of oppression that continuously produce violence against certain forms of difference. Value in difference is not enough, and it's not and it's not granting a possibility to us right now. And so there's this moment in the text in which I do that. I articulate the limits of difference, and for doing that, I criticize a very well-known Brazilian philosopher, white Brazilian philosopher, called Feli Honik, and I criticize because her project is the project of like the valorization of difference and like bringing difference, and then difference is the tool for making the world more just, or for adjusting power relations. I'm simplifying now, so please remember that I'm simplifying. The actual discussion, there's a bit more detail and complexity, but when I get to this moment, to this critique, or to this limit of the valorization of difference, is where I get to a moment in Edouard Glissant, a beautiful book called The Poetics of Relation. So Edouard Glissant is this black Caribbean thinker who wrote several things, poetry and everything, is a poet. And he wrote also this book called Poetics of Relation, which is a theory book I like very much. And in a certain moment of this text, Edouard Glissant comes with the idea of opacity. So it's quite interesting because he basically, he says it literally. He says the right to opacity is most important than the right to difference, because it is in opacity that difference is generated, that difference is nurtured. So what is opacity? Opacity is that which is not transparent, which cannot be seen through, which cannot be completely intelligible when translated. Transparency here is both like transparency, like a plastic bag that you can a window that you can see through, that's transparency, but it's also a form of describing that which is completely intelligible, that one can just look and understand. I don't know if that's transparency. And opacity is the opposite on that. The opaque is that which you cannot grasp completely. The opaque is that which you cannot understand completely. And what Edouard Glissant is calling is for a form of ethical relationship that preserves the right to opacity of everyone, that preserves the right of we do not understanding each other completely in order to be together, to work together, to operate together, to have a conversation. Because Glissant is responding to the critiques that say that the idea of the right to opacity would get everything into barbarism, because people would be like completely enclosed in the opacity. But what Glissant says is that the opacity is not what prevents relation. It is the condition of relation. Because the condition of relation is that I respect what I don't understand in you. That I respect that what I cannot read or grasp in you, in your experience, in your position. So the right to opacity somehow might allow us to not have to sell our souls